We've got Lesley and Clyde coming doing 20 minutes each, so that's going to be really great, so a real treat. So first we got Lesley Bartholomew from the Bridge Church in Saundersfoot. So should we give Lesley a big welcome? Thank you, Lesley.
Thank you very much. Woo. Thank you very much. So it was great, wasn't it, to hear what Tim had to share earlier. How exciting what's going on with Tim and with Paul. I'm just a new kid on the block, if you like. Julian said to me, just share your heart. We've been planted about 3 years, just about 3 years. So we're very, very new. I'm not here to say that we've got it all sewn up, because we haven't, but we're just trusting God to lead us. And we're really excited about that. So do you want to know what's going on in our little boat? Yes. Okay, I just want to go to the beginning, back to the beginning very quickly, where God started a fire deep down in me. I became a Christian against all the odds. I had no Christian background. No one had told me about Jesus. I never went to church, and I'd never opened a Bible. And God found me in a tiny church, in a funeral memorial service, of all things. And somebody prayed like Jesus was really real. And it impacted me so much that I went to the front of the church. My parents were one side, my sisters the other, and we all gave our lives to Jesus Christ that night. And God turned us around as a family, absolutely turned us around. And I was the presence of God was so real. And I just thought, how has nobody told me how real God is? And I got up the next morning and I thought, I wonder if it's still real. And before those words had formed in my mind, bang, just that reality of God and his presence and still that question, how could nobody have told me about this? I did what, I thought to do at the time. I agreed to start going to church and sort of melded with what I assumed church was. But all the time, I wondered what my unsaved friends back out there would make of it, because I had to buy a hat. And I never told my unsaved friends about this, but I always wondered what they'd make of it. And it's like this fire was put in me, this sort of uncomfortableness, because I always had an eye on who wasn't in the church rather than who was. And I actually read, Nicky Gumbel said that. I read it a couple of weeks ago, so I'm in good company. A very young Christian, went to a youth camp. I was blown away. I bought a Bible. I devoured the Bible. I specifically remember a guy, he was quoting heroes of faith that have gone before us. And there was one that he quoted, Amy Carmichael, and she said this, that the church can be guilty of sitting making daisy chains with a complete disregard to everybody else. And I knew at some point in my life, as time's gone on, that I'd be doing what I'm doing now, but it really came into view during, a little bit before COVID, and then, of course, that happened and lockdown, and it closed all the church doors, didn't it? I don't want to labor on about that time, except to say that God used that because we had time. He used it to bring into the focus this fire, this uncomfortableness in me that he had started right at the beginning. During that time, lockdown, things began to jump off the Bible as if for the first time. And I thought, this has been in the Bible for how many years, and it's jumping off the Bible. And in particular, where Jesus talks about the harvest. He says, the harvest is plentiful, and elsewhere, as we've heard, he uses the word white. That means it's ready. It's not going to be ready. It's ready, because if he says it's ready, it's ready. And elsewhere where Jesus was talking to his disciples, as the Father has sent me, so I'm going to send you. And we all believe the Bible to be true, don't we? We stake our lives on it. And I found myself thinking, well, if he says the harvest is ready, it's ready, and it's not going to be, it is. My husband's work, I know he tells everybody about football, but his main work is with the Welsh farmers. And we know, don't we, that no farmer reaps the harvest from the comfort of a building. The harvest doesn't make its way into the barns. He's got to go out. And it's going to take all of us to reap the harvest. And I realized that he wasn't sending me. He has sent me. And we're all a sent people. And you know what? During lockdown, because I'd got time, more than any other time in previous decades, I behaved like a sent person because we did have time, didn't we? I got to know my neighbors, which I'd never had a chance to do. And I just became more aware of my surroundings during that time. It was as if God had hold of my face and pointed it to Saundersfoot, which is where I live, and it was as if I became aware of all of the people that I live amongst who don't go to church, who don't necessarily have a living faith. And so this uncomfortableness that God had placed in me, it just grew. And so I knew without a shadow of a doubt that when the opportunity arose to plant a new church, what he wanted me to do. And it was different. And I must be honest, it was a bit scary for me because it felt like I was taking God's church and turning it on its head. Now, don't get me wrong, not changing the tenets or those central truths of faith. I guess you could say we were just repackaging it. I just felt a huge responsibility to get it right, but I knew what God wanted of me. It had to be about them and not us. And who was going to go? If not me, then who? And if not now, then when? And so it came to be almost 3 years ago. It fell to 22 of us to build from scratch. We don't have a building. We rent a building. We meet in a community hall. It's a great hall. I will just say at this point, team. I've said I and me a lot, but I have a fantastic team, and we do it together. We can't do it on our own. We do it together. And I remember sharing the vision for the bridge in that initial time, and they just jumped on board with the vision. And the vision was clear. It was going to be about them and not us, and that was going to shape everything that we did. And they were convinced too, we need to go, because if we don't, who will? And if we don't do it now, when will we? I just want to say at this point, we were so excited. Imagine that opportunity to plant a church from scratch. We just thought we just couldn't wait. Easy, except it wasn't. Somebody gave us a picture when we were first planting, and it's somebody from away, I didn't know them. In fact, 2 people did. And the picture was of white water rafting. I don't know if you've ever done that. I haven't. I had a little dabble in Disney World once. I don't think that was definitely not the real thing. But, it's one of those things where you laugh and scream at the same time. And I have to tell you that picture has helped us time and time again. It's not comfortable. If we wanted comfortable, we were definitely on the wrong path. It's not comfortable. I just want to move very quickly to some verses. This is the Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians, and we use this to cast the vision to more people, to bring them on board, for them to understand what we were doing. I'm going to read it from the Message Bible. Even though I'm free of the demands and expectations of everyone, I have voluntarily become a servant to any and all in order to reach a wide range of people, religious, non-religious, meticulous moralists, loose-living immoralists, the defeated, the demoralized, whoever. I didn't take on their way of life. I kept my bearings in Christ, but I entered their world and tried to experience things from their point of view. I've become just about every sort of servant there is in my attempts to lead those I meet into a God-saved life. I did all this because of the message. I didn't just want to talk about it. I wanted to be in on it. That's the Apostle Paul. And we just want to be in on it, and to quite simply go to enter their world. And I tell you what, we realized at this point when we were planting that very few of us had any non-Christian connections or friends. It's been tough. Whilst we planted with 22 and everyone was excited at the prospect of what we were doing and everyone had heard the vision, not everybody was ready for the radical changes that we were going to have to go through, the mindsets that we were going to have to challenge, not least our own, if we were serious about doing what we felt God was asking us to do. It was tough. There's that word again. But we don't do church like that. If we don't do this, the Holy Spirit won't be there. And it was a relentless attack on the church. That's what it felt like, on the vision, if you like. And we had been running, and all of a sudden we were trudging through mud, and it had the potential to become really distracting. And it did seem never-ending at the time, and it began to unsettle people and hurt some new people who had come along to the bridge who were finding faith. It hurt them, and it was really, really tough. But it did serve to keep us running back to God for wisdom and to make sure that we were on the right track. And despite all of that, we kept and we endeavor to keep the vision clear to help us to keep on course. I came across a great verse in the Bible just in the last month, actually, and it was so encouraging because whilst it's been in the Bible all that time, it was something else that jumped out just a couple of weeks ago, and it was so encouraging because that was what we were doing. I'm going to show you now, it's from Jeremiah 29, verse 7. That's Saundersfoot there, coastal town in West Wales. Jeremiah 29, verse 7. Also, seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I've carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you too will prosper. And in the Message Bible, it says this: make yourself at home there. Work for the welfare. Work for its welfare. And if things go well for them, they will go well for you. And so that was so encouraging because we were already focused on the betterment of the community and looking for ways to serve and to bless. And like Tim, we always have an alpha running. If we haven't got one running, we've got one in the pipeline and a number of other things. But in terms of looking out, we looked at how can we make this community flourish? What did they need? Well, there was absolutely nothing in the town for young people. And so we put on a youth club. It's not a church youth club. It wasn't for church kids. It's a community youth club. And it's run by the bridge for the local young people. We put a Christian youth leader in, volunteers are from the bridge, and we have some community who like to help us to put it on. And the big question is this: does it work? Well, we have 39 young people on the books for the youth club, and 30 of them are unchurched local young people. And they don't all turn up at the same time. We have about 18, 20 each week, but we've got 39 on our books, and that is just so exciting. We've developed a safe and inclusive space for them. Christian values and principles underpin everything we do in that club. And over time, trust has built up between the leaders and these young people. And they're encouraged to be good citizens where they live. They've litter-picked in the village and been taken litter-picking and what have you. The police come in to build a relationship with them, play badminton with them. And meaningful conversations have gone on, just as we've been doing crafts and whatever they've been doing in youth club, meaningful conversations. And the youth worker has reported, God is at work. He's absolutely at work, and we're convinced that this youth club is an important link in these young people's faith journeys. Again, there was nothing for young mums and their baby and toddler, so we put on rompers, and again, making great connections in the village. It may be a mother, it may be a grandmother or a guardian that comes along, but they've had opportunities to pray with them. We're known for our safe and clean environment, not just by those who come, but by health professionals, and it's very much appreciated in the community. We also go out and help other groups who are trying to make Saundersfoot a great place. And we make some great connections and friends just by going out and helping other groups to do what they're doing. Something else, we're also careful to be ready for when people who've been out bring people along to the bridge. And so we do all sorts of things in the bridge, like Alpha, and we have home groups and all of that. But for a Sunday, we craft and present Hello Sunday, and we make that as accessible as possible for those on the outside of faith or on the fringes of faith. I haven't got the time to tell you how we do that, but we watch with awe at what God does amongst us. People coming back to a faith that they may have had a brush with in childhood. People who have rejected God in the past because they were rejected by formalized religion because they hadn't kept the rules. And people finding faith for the first time. And we've got people who come and feel that they belong, and they haven't found faith yet, but they feel like they're part of us. We do our best to see how can they help us to put on Hello Sunday. It might be cooking some bacon or serving some coffee or whatever, but it helps them to feel they're a part of us rather than apart from us. They know that they're loved, and we're very clear in Hello Sunday that they are welcome, whoever they are, whatever they've done, and whatever their background. And unfortunately, that did bring a little bit of criticism from some that we welcome whoever, and yet we watch in awe as God changes lives, bit by bit. It's so exciting. I came across a quote by a pastor from the Valleys, John Fennell. I read his book, and relating to the messiness that can happen when you welcome whoever in. And he said this, you may have heard it before, but it's a little bit like your church is this wonderful string quartet, and then having a busload of kids turn up with recorders to join in. And it's challenging, but in a great way. Great quote, isn't it? We all identified with that, I could tell. We've had an encouraging number of baptisms over the time, not 65. Ooh, that's amazing. But we've had we've always got a baptism coming up. We've got one coming up in July, which is great. And I don't want to over-egg it, but we have more than tripled in size since we planted. We've now got younger generation coming in and some young families as well, which is great. Well, how am I doing for time? We want more of it. And we just have to keep banging the drum of going out. We can't let up that drumbeat, because it's in the going out that we're going to reap this harvest that Jesus says is ready. And it doesn't matter what we think, whether we think they're ready or not. If he says it's ready, it's ready. And that is our absolute focus. And it continues to shape our thinking and our planning, but not just that, our actions for all that we do. A couple of things very quickly. Over time, what you might call big wigs in a town, and every town has got big wigs, haven't they? Like county councillors and community councillors and people whose families have been there since Adam. They're big wigs in the town, and they sort of help to shape the place. Well, they've kept wanting me to be in their groups. They wanted me on the Saundersfoot Council, and they said, Lesley, you're just the voice of reason. I've no idea where they've had that from, because they don't attend the bridge. But anyway, so I have just recently said yes to one group. It's called Love Saundersfoot. And of course, as the bridge, we love Saundersfoot. And that's what we do. And it's part of our culture, if you like. And so I said yes. And for me, that is entering their world. Entering their world to experience life from their point of view. Because when we know where they're itching, we know where to scratch, don't we? We know what to use. I'm finding myself pastoring people outside of the bridge, if you like, outside of the church walls. And that is hugely exciting. Last year, the local health board and social services put on a wellness day, and it was for the area, and they chose to put it on in the community hall where we meet as a bridge. And there were like hospital carers there, and dementia help, guide dogs for the blind, cancer care, wheelchair hire group, and us, a church. And we got to present the bridge, and we had a big screen behind us, and Bear Grylls and Alpha and all of that. And we were interviewed on the local radio, and they said to me, you were invited because we were seen to do people good. That was hugely exciting. Life transformation, surely that's what it's about, isn't it? And none of it would have happened without going out and making sure that if they did come, we were ready. And so my time is up. And if you were to go away with one word from my 20 minutes this afternoon, it would be this: to go, because the harvest is ready. Absolutely. Nobody has said no to me yet if I've offered to pray for them on the street, in the shop, or wherever. Nobody. It's the scariest thing. It's out of the comfort zone. It's actually whitewater rafting. But Jesus says to go. They're ready.
Thank you, Lesley. That was amazing. I think it's such a good reminder that we are sent ones. I think sometimes we forget that we are sent. And so I don't know about you, but I'm going to be thinking about, where's my field? What field do I need to be getting into? Where is God sending me?